Palantirio's done taken all my Cheerios. We're seeing the stock price continue to trend down towards its IPO price of $10. Right now we sit at about 13, and we're seeing some more news. You guys might remember back in February, I put up this video talking about this is going to be a long road. Why investing in Palantir will be difficult. And in that video, I talked about, yes, it's an exciting stock, and yes, it's going to change the world. And for those of you who've been following the channel, you already know that I love Palantir and I invest in Palantir. But in that video, I talked about how there's too many different factors in Palantir that make it easy for the average general public in North America, and I guess around the world, to invest confidently and comfortably in Palantir. There's so many different factors that make it such a hot button politicized kind of stock that make it so hard for, I think, a lot of people to invest in and feel proud that they're investing in it. And today I'm going to talk about another one that just came out. If you've been following Palantir, you probably already know that Peter Thiel and Donald Trump are homies. And if you know anything about anything, you probably have strong feelings about Donald Trump, whether you love him or you hate him. It's going to be super interesting seeing in the comment section what kind of crap storm gets kicked up. But I know a lot of people feel really, really passionate, like Donald Trump got screwed, Biden pulled all these shenanigans, all this stuff. And then on the other hand, the other polar opposite, that is he's a terrorist and he wants to destroy the world and we need to stop him. And there aren't a lot of people in the middle besides maybe me. I think it's easier for me to sit in Japan and kind of look at things and be like, I wonder why this side feels like this, or I wonder why this side feels like this. But anyways, billionaire Peter Thiel, who is one of the founders of Palantir, he remains one of the chair people. By the way, his net worth is about 2.6 or 2.7 billion now. He also co-founded PayPal, was the first inside investor at Facebook, and he also provided early funding for LinkedIn, Yelp, and a bunch of other tech startups, according to Yahoo Finance. He is really, really good buddies with Trump, has been a vocal supporter of Trump, and is making even more moves now. He's been on the board at Facebook as well, and check it out in this Bloomberg article. It says, Peter Thiel is finally free to go all in for far-right politics. I know a lot of people would already be pissed off at that title, calling Trump far-right. But it says, the billionaire investor is giving up his long-held Facebook board seat to make a play for the Trumpist restoration. And the article goes on in depth. For years, even as Facebook came under increasing scrutiny from Washington politicians and regulators, the controversial billionaire Peter Thiel kept his seat on the company's board, and with it, his position as one of Silicon Valley's most important power brokers. Now, Thiel is finally giving up the seat, one that he has held since 2005, a move that will likely spare Meta Platforms Inc., Facebook, from added political headaches. It will also allow Thiel to do what he has long signaled was a desire, to go all in on far-right politics. And so, you're probably already aware of the debate going on behind Facebook. How much of what Facebook is censoring is valid or justified? There are a group of people who say everything they censor is perfectly fine, perfectly safe. And there's this other huge cohort of people who are just like, dude, it's completely controlled by the left, who push their own agenda through Facebook. And Thiel has probably been one of those people, it seems. And he's been on the board. And so you can imagine how much pressure there's going on in board meetings at Meta or Facebook and stuff like that. And actually, he mentored Zuckerberg for years. But relationships have soured as their political ideologies and stances have drifted further apart over the years. And it goes on to say that the relationship's getting worse as Thiel has become a prominent supporter of political candidates who have added Zuckerberg to their list of foes, targeting him alongside civil rights activists, Democratic politicians, private equity executives, and others they say are ruining America. Them's fighting words. The article goes on to say that Thiel is the largest donor to a political action committee, or a PAC, supporting J.D. Vance, who previously worked at one of Thiel's venture capital firms and is now running for Senate in Ohio. Last summer, the PAC aired a television ad in which Vance decried a ruling class, an elite, who don't actually care about the American nation, as an image of Zuckerberg flashed across the screen. Thiel gave $10 million to this guy and is supporting his push for Senate in Ohio. After Thiel, conservative mega donors Robert and Rebecca Mercer are the PAC's second and third largest contributors, giving 100,000 and 50,000 respectively. So there are people who are trying to become senators around the country, not just this guy, but we go on to list another one in a second, and Thiel is like totally got their back with his Political Action Committee, or PAC. And that $10 million donation to support Vance was by far the biggest single political contribution Thiel had ever made, but he has signaled a willingness to spend much more in the service of candidates aligned with Trump in the populist nationalist movement that has sprung up around the former president. A month after giving to Vance, Thiel wrote a second $10 million check for a new PAC supporting the Arizona Senate candidacy of Republican Blake Masters, who was a longtime Thiel aide and served as the co-writer on his book 0 to 1, which is a fascinating book, by the way. And if you haven't read it, even if you don't agree with his political positions, I think you should read it. And if you have an open mind, you'll learn a lot, I think. And speaking of that, one of the things that is really interesting for me, especially as a Canadian American now living in Japan, is that I can look at things from the outside without feeling like I must choose one side. And if I choose one side, then I automatically hate the other side. It's kind of easier for me to be like, interesting, let's try to understand both sides and be like objective, you know? And so reading books like 0 to 1 by this guy who's like a hyper genius and has impacted the world and all of the different products and websites that we use every day, you know, you can learn a lot. But going back into the topic at hand, one of the things I've seen in the US is just how polarizing everything has become basically since Trump became the president. And, you know, I'm not saying that's a great thing or that's a terrible thing necessarily. And Americans are always well known for having their strong opinions and making that known to the world. And that's one of the things I had to confront when I came to Japan. I was kind of like, wait, I'm not allowed to have an opinion, and by saying my opinion, I automatically lose friends without them actually giving me a rebuttal. Wait, how can I communicate now? You know, and like you get confronted by these different cultures that smash you in the face. But, you know, for example, when we look at the attack on Capitol Hill, again, there's this huge group of people who are just like, that was Trump. Trump did it. He's a terrorist. And Zuckerberg also has his thoughts. You know, Zuckerberg addressed the January 6th Capitol Hill attack in starkly different terms. In congressional testimony last year, he called the attack on the Capitol an outrage and a disgraceful moment in our history, blaming former President Trump. By contrast, according to the person close to Thiel, his priority will be to advance the Trump agenda ahead of the November election. And again, I'm not saying one side or the other, so don't sue me, bro, but basically, the more Thiel gets associated with Trump, which is like sure to happen, he may be even looked at by and large as society as like Trump's right-hand man. The more that happens, the more it's going to be hard for the broad public to just be like, yeah, Palantir, yeah, fight for freedom, fight for democracy. Let's use our technologies to stop terrorism and to stop communism and things like that. More and more people are going to be like, Thiel equals the enemy because I am not far right, or whatever definition you have of Thiel and Trump. He is the enemy, and therefore I'm not going to invest in it, or I'm going to short it even. We did see in the past George Soros, everybody's favorite grumpy old man, who was unwilling to support. He basically sold out of Palantir because he was like, I can't support their ideals. I can't support what they stand for politically. So that's probably not great news, regardless of what side of the aisle you sit on politically, if you're a Palantir investor. You know, if we look at stocks like Google or Apple, again, everybody kind of has a preference. You know, I would lean to be an Apple guy. A lot of people I know who are just like Microsoft all the way. And then there are other people who are like, I try to use Google as much as possible, but I'm okay using Windows or Apple, like whatever it is. I do also know a lot of people who invest in Apple who are like, I'm never going to use an Apple product, but they have a really good thing going on. I don't think that can happen with Palantir because it's probably becoming too politicized. What do you guys think about that? I'm still in Palantir. I'm still dollar cost averaging in, and I think they're still going to change the world. But when I see stuff like this, I'm kind of like, this probably doesn't bode well for this as an investment for the next, couple of years. But, on the same hand, Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, always warns us, don't get in this stock for the short term. You need to be in it for 5 to 10 years. And then you're going to start to see growth. And that's my outlook. And so even while the stock is melting down, I'm just dollar cost averaging in. And in fact, as the price goes lower, our risk also goes lower, which is a refreshing take on things. Keep that in mind. What do you guys think? I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts. Love you guys. Stay generous.